So I started being interested in composition actually very early in my life. My father is a professional musician, played in the Israel Philharmonic, and so we had a piano at home, and we always, as kids, liked to listen to music and play music. My older brother and I would write songs and kind of record them together. I was 9 and I started playing the cello, and what I noticed was that I was more interested in actually creating music on the piano or on the cello, or with sort of these radios, that tape recorders that my dad bought us. That I was more interested in creating music without words a lot of the time, sort of these pieces. And then when I started playing piano, it was probably in 5th grade, my main interest was actually to improvise and create my own music. So like very early on, this was my goal in actually learning how to play an instrument. So it wasn't kind of an outgrowth of playing an instrument and then being interested in composition, but the creative side was more interesting to me from the get-go. So how do I get inspired to write a piece? Well, the inspiration to write for sort of more unique instruments often comes from a performer, a soloist, maybe a festival or an orchestra, that someone actually wants a piece for that instrument. For example, my mandolin concerto, or a lot of the percussion works that I've written. So these soloists would come to me, and I like the instrument, and so I kind of dig in and study that instrument, try to like understand the soloist, how they interact with the instrument, but also how the instrument works. But often I kind of need to put away the original reason the piece started. So if the soloist comes to me and wants a piece, I kind of have to forget that they asked me. I kind of have to find my own sort of internal reason to write the piece. So I kind of learn the instrument. I put all the stuff that I thought about it aside, and then kind of look for my own impetus. Like what is it about this instrument that interests me? What is it about this ensemble that interests me? What am I interested in expressing right now, or writing right now? As for difficult instruments to write for, I would say the guitar is a very difficult instrument to write for. It's kind of a combination, at least for someone who's not a guitar player, it's a combination of the fact that it has so many possibilities and yet so many limitations. So because of the way that the strings are laid out, how they are tuned, and then the various techniques that the guitar can perform, sort of make this interesting combination of many possibilities, a lot of things that the instrument can do, and yet at the same time a lot of things that it can't do. So you kind of have to, I kind of have to know what I want to write, know what I want to express, but then sort of make it work within the limitations of the instruments, or come from the physicality of the instrument and sort of find my creative spirit within what the instrument is good at doing. Studying a lot of pieces that have been written for the instrument, but also once I'm done with the piece, in this case, for example, having Jason Vieuax go through the piece, look at it, give me feedback, give me comments. Or as I'm writing the piece, for example, the last movement of this piece, I had played it for my wife, and she has some experience with guitar playing, and so she gave me some feedback on that, because some of the stuff that I wrote originally was not actually possible to play. So there's always some interaction and some learning going on, and feedback to write for a piece, for an instrument that I don't actually play. I don't know that I can name a favorite piece. Of my own pieces, usually my favorite piece is the one that I'm working on now, or the one that I just finished, or the one that I just heard performed, premiered, just because it's recent, and if I'm happy with it, then that would be my favorite piece of my own. I just had a piece premiere at the Simone Summer Music Festival, Concerto for cello piano, and orchestra, and I was very happy with it. So, maybe by the time that EMF is done, it'll be this new guitar concerto, which I'm also very happy with. So that's hard to say. Other composers, again, like it's really like I listen to a lot of music, obviously. I know a lot of music, obviously. So it kind of changes. Usually there's some piece that I just discovered, and there's maybe a movement of it that I really like. Like in the last couple of days, I heard for the first time a piece by Jean Francais for a piano trio, and the last movement I found really, really special. And right now I was driving in the car and heard the last movement of the Mozart woodwinds and piano quintet in a very old recording that was really, really fast, and I found it really wonderful and listened to it again. So like it's really hard to say. I like to listen and to study music of other composers, either from the past or present. But a lot of in addition to that, a lot of what I like to do is to listen to music that is not necessarily written down. And if it's written down, not necessarily orchestral or chamber or what we call sort of classical or sort of that tradition that I work in, I actually find that it's very interesting and even more than interesting, it kind of sparks creativity to listen to other traditions of music. So art music from around the world. I like South Indian music a lot, Arabic, classical music. There's a huge variety, like sort of African traditional music, but then also popular music, like listening to jazz. So many different styles of music, probably not every song or piece in those styles, but just to kind of spark more creativity. So I'm not, I feel like being just in one genre is a little, in my listening and in my studies, is a little more limiting than finding my inspiration in a broader spectrum of music. I have to say that my answer for this question is pretty similar, that there are many unforgettable experiences of my music being played. And again, the ones that are most fresh in my mind are the most recent ones, like this one at Siwani, or I had a wonderful premiere in Montreal earlier in the summer, and the New York International Piano Competition, all the competitors played a new sonata of mine. That was fantastic. I was in Germany in May and premiered 2 new pieces, a new piano concerto, a new orchestra piece. Every single one of these is very memorable. I think the most recent ones are kind of the most fresh in my mind. But then when I go back, I think, early important ones are probably very special. The premiere of Spices, Perfumes, Toxins, that's a double percussion concerto of mine that was with the Israel Philharmonic and Per Kadu, a duo of percussionists who were good friends of mine in my undergraduate years. It was very special, both because it was the Israel Philharmonic orchestra that I kind of grew up in. My father played in it, so it was a very special moment. Subin Mehta conducted it, someone that I've seen my whole life conduct. Suddenly my music is there, but also my friends on stage, and we kind of I created this piece, but very much inspired by their use of percussion. It was a very, very unique moment, but there's so many others. I think a lot of times just working with a conductor or a soloist, and then with an orchestra, like you bond with people and the music, and this creation that's been in my mind for a long time suddenly comes to life. It's a very special event every single time, and it's certainly memorable. Many memorable premieres. So my advice for high school or college students who want to pursue composition, I guess there's 2 sides to it. One is the artistic advice, and I would say really developing skills is a really important thing, because once you have the skills, you can do whatever you want to do. So I think a lot of times students will feel some frustration trying to work on the skills for a very long time, and sort of want to be more expressive of their voice and what they want to say. But sometimes that is counterproductive because, for example, if your orchestration skills are not so developed, then writing for an orchestra might take a very long time, might take so long that you never finish the piece. And even if you do, you might not be so happy with the outcome. So there's a lot of skill involved in composition. So I would say develop your skills, and the flip side of it, not to allow your own or other people's ideas about what you should do, sort of your own what you should do, yes, but don't be kind of afraid to express what you want to express and write in the style that you want to write, and not to let a lot of times our sort of a fear of what other people might think or what other people actually think deters young composers from writing exactly what they want. And I think in the long run, again, that doesn't work very well because in the end, there's always challenges writing music. There's always challenges bringing it to the world. And if you're not super happy with what came out, if you don't really feel that this is what you want to share with the world, why do it? I think from a career perspective, creating relationships with performers and young performers. So like if you're a high school student with other high school students, with your college students, with other college students, creating these relationships now, learning from them how their instruments or voices work, and writing for them, I found that to be one of the most valuable career moves long term, because you get better at composing, you have performers that are committed to your work, and you grow together. So you find new avenues and you find new ways to be musicians in the world together for your new generation. Creating this concerto version had some advantages. That obviously the quintet version was ready, and so Jason Vieuax's part was complete, and I didn't have to worry about all those challenges of writing for guitar. The main thing was to reimagine the piece as a concerto. So in a quintet, it's very much a chamber music piece, and so to sort of imagine how this piece works as a protagonist versus a group, which is the concerto model. So a lot of it had to do with just going through the piece and imagining how this would work. What places are going to be these big tutti places, these sort of orchestral moments? Where is it more of a soloist moment, and where is the interaction between them, the conflict between them, the resolution between them? So a lot of it was kind of conceptual, and then the actual creation of the new version was not so was pretty straightforward once I knew each part, what I wanted dramatically and expressively what I wanted it to be. Right now I'm writing a new orchestra piece. I don't know how much I can say about it because it's been commissioned but not announced. I'm very excited about it and moving through it. And a couple of chamber works that are coming up for some unusual ensembles as well. So again, I don't know how much I can say about these projects because they have not been announced, but certainly continuing to write, and very excited about the upcoming season with a lot of performances, premieres, some recordings coming out. Big recording with BMOP, the Boston Modern Orchestra Project, will come out in September. It's six orchestral works of mine that have never been released commercially are going to come out on that recording, so very excited about that.